Have that. You can win 4-1, so can we, said Mikel Arteta to Pep Guardiola after, obviously, Man City's thrashing of Liverpool. And then Arsenal went out and did the same. Very different opposition, but still plenty to unpack in this game as well. And Arsenal keep the gap between them and Man City to that 8-point difference. Obviously, City have that game in hand, but still, there is an 8 points difference. And a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, so to speak. Now, there were plenty of differences, and you can see post-international break what it is that Mikel Arteta was thinking, all right? He was thinking, I want to try and avoid that kind of hangover from the international break that other teams have had, a la your Liverpools. I also want to avoid an upset result, which very often can happen after either a late playing in the week or an international set of fixtures, mainly because just teams are bringing a lot of people back, and obviously the better sides or the sides who are top of the league at that time have more players going away, and so we see where they are, right? Now, there was also the opportunity in this game with some of the rotation, forced rotation, maybe, that Mikel Arteta had to do. 2 players were not in that starting 11 who have been so key this season, Saliba and Saka. Maybe he had something against S in this game. Maybe it's an episode of Sesame Street, my friends, but not today. Because RH, Rob Holding, came in again. Now, we've spoken about Rob Holding on this channel before. We've praised him before as well, because including players who are fringe players in the squad and probably not necessarily in the future plans of the club, or at least in the fans' idea of future plans for the club, is tricky, right? But very often in a life cycle, which teams go through, and we're not talking about the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5 that Mikel Arteta has been talking about. We're talking about the team life cycle over 3 years where, they start off sun rising, they get to the point where it's sort of the sun is in the peak of the sky, and then they sort of plateau and things look pretty good. That's your 3-season kind of window to strike. Arsenal still very much within that. And that's what keeps a player like Rob Holding invested. They're still challenging, the team is still good, there's plenty of need to rotate players within this team and plenty of need for starting diversity, but also you're going to be a backup to a quality centre-back and you're still going to have a position within a potentially title-winning side, right? So that's fantastic. Rob Holding deserves so much praise. I know that they conceded. I know there wasn't a clean sheet today, but at the same time, that wasn't really Rob Holding's fault. And actually, I think in this complex system, which is a complex system which needs to keep a lot of the control in the games, being part of that box, being a player that's willing to be run at from some really difficult wingers. Somerville was out there. I thought he was really good. I thought Aronson was really good. I did think Sinisterra did have a good go at them as well. And then they also had people like Jack Harrison. So it wasn't like it was easy today on that side for Ben White and Rob Holding, especially with Ben White bombing on as well. Now, you guys will be thinking, why are you blabbering on about the back line for Arsenal? Well, that's everything that Arsenal build from this season. And I get it. Like, there's lots for me to talk about up front. But let's not leave these guys who deserve some credit until the very end, especially when we know that for the rest of the season, Gabriel Jesus is going to get his moment in the sun, and so is Trossard and those kind of guys. Now I can go and blabber on for minutes about the attack for Arsenal in this game. When we saw that Trossard was starting out on that side, Trossard is probably one of the few players in the Premier League that you'll be happy to see coming in for someone like Saka. Not that you're happy not to see Saka in a game, and obviously he came on later, but you get my point, right? Trossard has been a revelation since signing for Arsenal. And that is mainly down to, A, what I always talk about with Trossard in these videos, which is him being hungry, coming from a complex tactical system in the first place, and having tactical intelligence in order to read the game and fill those gaps that other players aren't doing. Now, that's sometimes Mikel Arteta's instructions, sometimes just brilliant reading. The other side of it is Mikel Arteta and the system that he's slotting him into. If you're going to take off say a Trossard, take off a Saka and put Trossard in that position, you need someone else in the other position. And that's where 2-goal Gabriel Jesus, which one is it, guys? Let me know, came in and had a massive impact on the game. Not least in the fact that his movement is elite. His movement is the movement that you kind of see in a Man City side. A side where you're clearly getting tactically intelligent players moving in ways that other Premier League sides just can't deal with. Leeds being one of them, right? Now, first, of course, one of the 2 goals was a penalty, so sure, take that one way. But the other one, classic Gabriel Jesus. And obviously some classic Arsenal goals today. Arsenal score such a diverse set of goals, and they score such a range, and the danger comes from all over the field, that it's such a pleasure to watch them. They are genuinely, and I'm not saying this in sort of any shade to Man City, they are the most watchable side in the Premier League right now. They are So they're free-flowing, their passing is fantastic, and the shapes and movement is amazing. Not least, you can see that from, well, first of all, actually, the penalty I thought was quite interesting today because some of the movement there from multiple players in the front line, but the fact that Arsenal just packed that front line, dive at players, Ayling dives in, a foot on the knee, and it is a penalty because the referee gave it in the end. Whether it was a soft penalty is another call, but it was a penalty in my eyes. And then Gabriel Jesus steps up, slots away. I also loved, by the way, for that penalty, just a quick note on this one, how Odegaard stood over the spot for ages so no one could go to it and rough it up. Sorry, I got emails. I will answer those later. Anyway, that's great. Puts Arsenal 1-0 up, draws Leeds out. But Leeds was sort of troubling Arsenal from time to time and did trouble Arsenal from time to time. I'll talk about that before talking about the rest of the Arsenal goals, right? Now, we know that Arsenal are going to be troubled, so to speak, not in any meaningful way, but from time to time in all these games. Early on, I actually thought the flow of the game was quite, how can I put it? Like, Arsenal had a good running of it, but they were never fully in control. It was basically just them sort of gearing up to getting a goal, right? And even when the penalty came, which was when Arsenal were relatively not really in control at that point. Like, it was a penalty, but they were just, it was the first time when they really sort of ventured into the Leeds half, should we say, or sort of ventured into putting real pressure on Leeds. You know what I mean? About control and then pressure. Now, we can talk about that control because Mikel Arteta is a master of this kind of resting defence and resting possession where if you're in possession of the ball, you're not particularly, trying to get at the opposition. You're just passing it around, neat shapes, keeping the ball, seeing how Leeds react to it, reading them, and your game managers, who are the Odegaards, who are the Xhakas, who are the Parteys, there are a lot of good game managers out there, even the Trossards now, and the kind of players who are thinking, right, I can get into X position. You could see that so early on from Odegaard. He's wandering into positions where in the end he doesn't get the pass. And they go, okay, just won't wander into that position again. I know that Leeds are going to shut that off. He's constantly trying and trialing things, not necessarily in the same way as a Messi does, although he is very much a world-class player, not that level, but you get what I mean. He potentially is amazing, but you get my point. He's just wandering around, here I am. No pass. Cool. Move off. Oh, here I am. No pass. Okay. The fullback's there. All right. I'll move on. And in the end, Arsenal then get control through this because they're fulfilling fulfilling the needs that Arsenal have in that moment to fill. They're almost like water, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not making like a Bruce Lee reference here. They're almost like water in the sense that they basically flow onto the opposition and then fall into the spaces the opposition leave for them because they push 6, probably 7 players really onto them. And so the spaces open up because you're trying to cover so many people and bang, that's when you get the penalty early on. The game changes and honestly, things are so different after that. So I enjoyed that. The second goal of Ben White was that exactly what we've been talking about, that front 6 and the fullbacks overlapping. It shows the confidence, it shows the control, it shows everything you want Arsenal to have, right? But Ben White's wandering in at the back post on the back of a combination of Zinchenko and Martinelli in this game. Now, that's one other thing I really wanted to mention. I've got a graphic up for myself. You guys won't be able to see it, but I have a graphic up. I probably could put it up, but they were very left-sided in this game, Arsenal. If I just lean over there, they were very left-sided, right? Now, with that, I'll just screenshot that for you, okay? With that was probably because they weren't as emphasising on Saka today, right? That was probably because they knew that Ben White wouldn't be able to rotate out for Tomiyasu. That was probably because they wanted to reduce the pressure that would be on that side of the defence. But Rob Holding was the deepest lying player for Arsenal. So it's not like they haven't put emphasis on him as a player, right? He was doing really good things. He was doing great things, in fact. But obviously his emphasis was much more in the middle of the park. He was slightly more static. The wandering Gabriel was much more able to read different elements of the game. And I think they're a bit more worried about that side for Leeds because Leeds were really pinned back on that side. They were going to ping balls over that, and then you basically got 2 centre-backs in Ben and Rob who were able to deal with it. I know Ben's playing as a fullback, but he's a centre-back in this, right? So they were pinging the balls over, and Rob and Ben were sort of dealing with them quite nicely, right? Sure, I'll use their first names. Cool. But then on the other side of that, you've also got real emphasis where they're basically trying to overload that Leeds side, and they're trying to overload. Who are they trying to overload on that side? Luke Ayling, basically. And you've got Gabriel Jesus Jesus, and on that side, Martinelli as well. They just kept taking them on. They kept going at Koch. They kept going at these guys, and they realized on the other side it was a bit stronger, probably had a bit better mobility as well with the likes of Jack Harrison, those kind of guys. And really, Arsenal just went, cool, we're just going to plunder you down this side. And in the end, amazing cross from Gabriel Martinelli in at the back post with Rob holding, and boom, there we go. Second goal. Then comes on to the third goal, right? Quite enjoyable on this. Gabriel Jesus, good, like I said, classic Gabriel, love it. And then the fourth goal. I want to talk a little bit about this because at this point, Arsenal have just conceded I think about 6-7 minutes before, right? So the pressure that came from Crystal Palace in that last game obviously was such that I think after that it was like, oh, what's happening here, you know? In this game, Zinchenko sort of sticks a leg out, and it's the first kind of real mistake that I've seen Zinchenko make. He was on the edge of the box, sticks a leg out, the ball just falls to him, and it's a lovely finish. Ramsdale will be furious because he loses another clean sheet there, and he's in the race for the clean sheet at the moment. By the way, he's well ahead of other clean sheet seasons from so many years gone by where Liverpool have just passed it between Ederson and Alisson, and anyway, he's ahead of those guys, right? Now, with that, he'll be angry, but he deserves some credit in this game because I thought he was decent, right? Now, one thing that a lot of people won't be talking about in this game is the influence of Thomas Partey. Now, the Partey situation has been a bit of a strange one in recent weeks. We saw someone from the Arsenal staff go away with him, and we know there are other situations that might be impacting him in terms of health, but also just in terms of personal circumstances. And he might not be feeling great right now. I'm not talking about things that happen off the field. I'm not passing an opinion on that stuff or whether it's true or not. I'm basically just saying those things have mental impacts on people. But what you saw his influence on the pitch, and what I can talk about, is his average position was actually normal for Thomas Partey. He's very much at the centre of that formation. He doesn't play as part of a 2, really plays part of a 1. And I know he's in the box, but he's really that 1 in the middle there. That you see that average position there. But his average position was so high on the field today. His average position where he was winning the ball back, where his influence really was so much more because Leeds were sitting so deep. And that's what's going to happen against Arsenal. There's going to be a lot of low blocks, break on them. They didn't break wide enough, but it allowed Partey, it allowed other people to just break the play up as they went, and they had an easy game because of it. This wasn't, if you're a Man City fan, a game you should expect Arsenal to drop points in. So can they do the same against other big sides? We're going to see. I'd be interested to see how controlling Arsenal are against a Liverpool or a Man City at their place. It'll be interesting to see how Partey, Xhaka, and those other guys and in the controlling area of the midfield play in those games. Odegaard, really, just such a sumptuous cross to Xhaka. And Xhaka again, just sometimes they pull out and then they let their two, like Xhaka and Odegaard, sort of do their thing. And Xhaka just, with the tide going out of the players, Xhaka just sails in, bang, great goal. Similar in a way to like the way that Liverpool used to use Mane. They used to sort of evacuate the box and the back line would pull up. Mane runs in, he's left with loads of space. And Xhaka is left with loads of space in there. Now, Leeds did try and do that thing that Everton actually did against Arsenal, where they basically went wide. So you've got your Harrisons, your Somervilles, those guys. Didn't quite work in the same way in this game. Arsenal were just way too in control. Leeds sort of got their heads down and just went through the middle. I want to see more sides, and obviously I want to see Arsenal win the league, but I want to see more sides go wide against Arsenal, see if they can challenge just a little bit more on the counter-attack, in the transition, and see how Arsenal deal with that. You feel like there's something there, you feel like maybe there's an opportunity, and let's face it, like we want some drama come the end of the season. Maybe we don't want too much, but we want some. Arsenal looked relatively in control though for most of this game, and really they never needed to get out of second or third gear in this one. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I really enjoyed Arsenal today. I enjoyed Benny Blanco scoring that goal. Actually, probably the best goal of the game. Good from Xhaka, but Benny getting that goal is nice. And I'm looking forward to the next one, because the next one is a big one. See you guys for that one later in the week. Please watch the rest of the videos. If you're not already hit subscribe, hit it down there. Join me for the other stuff, because if you don't enjoy my company, then what's the point of you being on the channel? Maybe you just enjoy me talking about Arsenal, for sure. And I will see you guys later. Much love. Bye.